Welcome to Focus TV for our community today. Hello, everybody. I am Gwendolyn Bork, the president of For Our Community, Unity, and today we are the Depew Lancaster Addiction Prevention Coalition. And today I have a very special guest, the Director of Special Education from the Lancaster School District, Mr. John Armstrong. John, thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure, Gwen.
So what we like to do is always start off with saying, what are your roles and responsibilities as a director of special education? How do you interact with the students, the staff, and the parents? And let's talk about what those roles really look like before this coronavirus started happening.
Well, my role in the district is I'm a district administrator, but my focus is really very much child or student centered. I was fortunate to have taught in the district for, 6, 7, 8 years, and became department chair for the special education department, and then was fortunate enough to be hired as director of the program. And my role is really to make sure that students, children that have special needs are evaluated, that we meet to determine their needs, and then we implement and arrange services. They're going to really help them in the best setting possible to maximize and become as independent and successful as ever. And what that involves is a whole range of programs and services. That's really my main focus and my energy, and really my passion is for making sure we have the best staff, therapists, aides, teachers, and administrators that can really support these kids and make them successful. We have some superb parents, wonderful students and staff that their zeal, their passion, their mission really is to help kids be as successful and as independent as possible. So that's my focus. It's easy it's easy to get distracted. But when I get distracted or too busy or sidetracked, I come back to just honing in on kids' needs, and that's where I try to focus on. So not to belabor this too much, but like a lot of what we do is meet with families. The Committee on Special Education and the Committee on Preschool Special Education for 3 and 4-year-olds. That's a large part of my role, as well as I have an assistant director that works with me, Mrs. Camerata, and we spend probably a good, I'd say 40 to 50% of our time is really meeting with parents and staff, students, and a lot of the students, especially at the secondary level, are involved in the meetings, and we meet and we figure things out. How are things going? What's going well? What are needs? What do we still need to work on? And then we come up with a program or an education plan to make that happen in our schools day in and day out. And that's the best part, honestly, of my job. I love meeting with the staff. I love meeting with the students and the parents. And yeah, that happened. That's my role now. And I know we'll talk about this later. That's still my role, even in the COVID-19 era.
So an example of something that you could incorporate into, an individualized education plan could be things like, preferential seating, maybe extra time on tests. What are a couple other examples that you can give, the people watching of what that looks like in a learning environment at school?
Well, I kind of, in general, I look at it in terms of programs. Programs would be something like, does a child need a resource room type of environment to be more successful, or would they need a consultant teacher to support them in the regular classroom? Then I look at services. An example of services might be maybe a child needs some speech service, or would they benefit from physical or occupational therapy to really work on some of their needs there, or maybe even counseling. So I look at programs, and then services, and then like what you were referring to, Gwen, are accommodations and supports. There's a whole host of accommodations and supports. For example, in certain test-taking situations, those are called testing accommodations. There's a whole range of ways for what I call to level the playing field for a student. So if they need a little bit more time to truly get what's in their, if you will, in their brain onto that paper or onto that computer. If they need some extra time and that's justified by their needs, then we do it and we make sure it's implemented properly. Maybe they need a separate setting for a test that would help them be able to focus better. Those are classic examples. And in the classroom, there's supports, there's in-classroom supports. A lot of students benefit from just prompting, remembering to be prompt to get their attention focused. That happens with a lot of kids and adults, quite frankly, sometimes, right? You need a prompting and a reminder to stay on task. I certainly do. But that way our aides or the classroom teacher or the special education teacher in that classroom can make it a point to remind that child, or like you said, I think you had said, Gwen, maybe separate seating accommodations, specialized seating accommodations. Some of our children with specialized needs for hearing, they might have some hearing difficulties. So we try to position them in the best setting in the classroom so that they can see things, but also so that they're able to hear better.
Yeah, I bring that up only in the way to paint the picture of what was available, pre-corona crisis and within the building and the teams that were ultimately put together for all these students, right? And now here we are in the midst of this health crisis, that just before St. Patty's Day, we went from all the school districts closing on that Friday to the weekend rolls out, everybody, the superintendents come together and, Erie County, and they decide by Monday morning, that's it, we're closing until April 20th. So for you in that moment, coming to work that Monday, what happened then as far as your roles and responsibilities? What did you do to, first, I would say, help your students, parents, and staff accommodate these students that were already in getting those types of services? And then what was the school really doing in general to stay engaged with their students?
Well, I think in the short run, it really, when we knew things were headed, obviously, at least a few days ahead of time. We kind of saw the writing on the wall, but you just never know when the public health officials and state education officials are going to make that final call. But I think it was kind of a short run plan, like let's have a plan to a certain degree, especially at the elementary level, to try to send some work home with the kids, a packet of information and contact numbers and stuff like that. And we did that for a little while with hard copy of information, and then we pivoted shortly thereafter. And I can't remember, these days are all melding into one, but we pivoted to more of a complete online learning platform. I mean, we use Google Google Classroom as our main platform, and that allows us to do a lot of different things to present information and to interact with students. We use that for our general education as well as special education. The big other process we really talked about, and we're really super concerned about, is just constant follow-up with families and kids. Like, honestly, I think in the beginning it might have been too much for families, right? I don't know, when in your situation, maybe you got too many calls from parents or emails or teachers, but a couple times I call parents, they're like, wow, we appreciate your staff, your teachers, your therapists following up, but like we're overwhelmed right now. So in that first week, several weeks of the situation, we were kind of like, are we giving too much work? Are we giving too little work? Are we following up too much? Are we driving our families and kids up the wall? And it's not like we'd really done this before. We had a good experience with Google Classroom, especially grades 7 through 12, but to turn around this quickly and change your entire operating procedure is just, I give a lot of credit to our teachers, our administrators, and our parents for making this work overall. It's certainly not perfect. We joke around about this. I do with my staff. I said, we're having a big meeting on Zoom, or on Google Meets we use in the district. We're like, did any of us get into this to teach kids from behind a computer screen? I don't think so. Like I certainly didn't. I love working with children, and I know my staff and therapists, they love working with kids. It keeps you young, honestly. So we love it.
A mom keeps me young. That's for sure.
Nah, it's different when you're a parent. It's different, isn't it? But anyways, I could go all day on that, but no, we really have learned a lot, and just it's that longer term, it's kind of balanced out a little bit better. It's certainly not perfect. We want to get back. I think some of my teachers, and I know the administrators and staff and other therapists, they're working harder now. School, technically, the brick and mortar is closed, right? But we're working we're working harder in some cases, I think, than we've ever worked before because things keep changing.
Sure.
We have something set up, but then we have to adjust and react differently. And, people are at home taking care of their own children or their in-laws or their relatives, and they've got to they got to find another time to do the schoolwork. And I'm amazed overall, but in general, it's gone pretty well. But we certainly want to get back to school when we can.
John, what are some of the things that your team in your committee has ultimately pivoted or adapted? What have they offered their students that need that special help that they would normally have gotten within the school?
Well, we've done quite a bit of work with offering services via video, like of course you and I are talking. And that's been a little bit of a learning curve because we certainly weren't set up to do that originally. So for certain services, we've been able to offer them via video link. We've done a lot more phone calling. I know my staff have done a lot more. I'm sure they've done a lot of texting, emails, phone calls, a combination of all of the above. That's really probably I think it's that the Google Classroom works really well for a lot of kids, but some kids it does not work as well. So we've had to kind of follow up more in person. There's been cases with certain kids, certain students where we've just had to reach out differently to them. And usually with enough of us working on it with the parents, we can kind of get them to where we want. So that's probably been the big change.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is communication.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and that holds true even for adults right now, and businesses and business owners and all of us within the community. If we can just stay in connection with each other and communicate with each other, then and voice our needs, and we can at least serve the needs. So I appreciate the
Mm-hmm.
links that your students have. Even the students that they've taken to stay engaged with the teachers, because it's so easy to just throw in the towel and be like, I'm just out, I'm
Right.
mentally out. And for
Absolutely.
the teachers to stay engaged and for you to be overseeing a lot of this, I know it's a full-time job. I'm here all day with
Well,
my
you look at this other thing, not so much. I mean, I've been aware of it and involved a couple of times, but even you look at our lunch program. I know that's another change. Like, had we ever thought we'd be handing out literally thousands of lunches and breakfasts every day? I think we're up to some like 60, 70, 80,000 lunches and breakfasts that we've handed out here in Lancaster. We're there every day. Our staff and principals and teachers are at Lancaster Middle School. I mean, just doing that, staying connected, like you said, and communicating, at least in a very tangible way. I mean, we never would have predicted that, but that's crucially important to help families out in a time like this. So
Yeah, agreed.
it's amazing.
So they make the call to shut down school, for the rest of the school year. What's happening now? I mean, I don't want anybody to think there's this illusion of, oh, well, school's done, it's over with, right? Like we can stop online school, we can stop doing what we're doing. No, life goes on. So paint me the picture now, at least till what you foresee is the end of the school year, which I know they just announced the official dates on that, but
Right.
also, possible, things to look forward to in the fall. What
Mm-hmm.
what can the seniors expect, or kids going into the next year in September?
Well, in my area, in the special education department, just like we're meeting today, Gwen, we meet with parents either mostly by phone or some kind of video or some kind of phone conference with staff, and we talk about plans for all kids. So Mrs. Camerata, the assistant director, and I, we continue to do that. We're just about done with our annual reviews. We're meeting on every child, updating their education plan, and getting ready and looking forward to finishing off this year as best as we can, and then getting back into school hopefully in the fall. So that continues unabated. We do that. Looking ahead, we're hoping to get permission from the state to be able to work face to face with kids again, even for the summer, like if a child needed an evaluation. Like currently right now, I mean, if you need to evaluate a child and you have to work directly with them to evaluate them, we can't do that right now. We're not allowed. So we're hoping to get some permission from the New York State Department of Education and public health officials to do that. We're planning summer school. Uh, some children that get special services also get extended school year, or commonly referred to as summer school services. We're planning to do that. We work with BOCES and we deliver some of our own programs. So what we have is really kind of two plans. We're planning as if we're going to be back in person, but we're also the backup plan, if you will, is we're going to have to do it online again. It's some kind of virtual or e-learning format. So I mean, that's so we have kind of two plans going into summer for any kind of services or programs that a child might need. Then in the fall, we're already planning, it, like, what are we going to have to do in the fall to keep it safe for staff and parents and children to attend our schools? You know, what are we going to do in terms of, hygiene and just social distancing? It's quite as you can imagine, it's quite a monumental task to put that in place for schools and what we're accustomed to doing. I mean, schools are places where people come together and meet. That's what we do and learn. And it's just we'll figure it out, and we'll make it absolutely as safe as possible. But it's going to take some work in the fall. As far as seniors, I know that Mr. Marchioli, the building principal, has already communicated out to all seniors with plans for graduation. They're doing, I believe, don't hold me on this one, Gwen, but I know they're planning to bring kids in individually in a safe way and have them actually receive a diploma, walk the stage, if you will. And then they're going to put that in together, I think, into an overall video or montage for everybody. So that'll be exciting. They've had countless, kind of trying to support our seniors, whether they're in sports like for lacrosse, or I feel so bad for the spring athletes. And they're just like a culmination of a year, of being an athlete, or examples of that, or wouldn't matter, any kind of activity. I know we've had a lot of help from parents and school staff with trying to celebrate and go around and celebrate those children, those students, as best as we can. Because it's got to be, that's tough. I don't even know if I can put words to that when you're looking to culminate, many, many years probably at Lancaster High School. And then you didn't barely even got to say goodbye to your friends in school. Now you're moving on to the next stage of your life. But a lot of outreach going on as best as we can to make the kids feel like it's a special time, which it is really. So, which it certainly still is, I mean to say.
Right. I've seen some amazing community spirit, even just in Alden, where my kids go, and
Mm-hmm.
other parents are adopting other graduates, and they're leaving care packages on the front porches of these other seniors, for graduation presents, and people that
Mm-hmm.
are ultimately normally strangers. So
Yep.
it's good to at least see what parents in the community can do to support the kids, and I think that's the biggest thing right now is some students feel like, are we ever going to see our friends again? Are we ever going to go back into that school? And from what I'm hearing from you, it's sounding like, you're going to plan what the schools are still going to plan to bring the kids back in as safely as possible. But, there is a plan B in effect.
Oh yeah, especially in the short run. And it's a lot of this is fortunately or unfortunately, it's out of our control. It depends upon how this virus subsides, and how we always have to balance. We're certainly going to balance safety and instruction, but the safety is going to win out every time.
Right.
So we're trying to be optimistic about it and make plans, but a lot of those decisions are really made by public health officials and by New York State right now.
I know some of the students that I've talked to within our organization, within Focus, because we work with the Depew students, the Lancaster students, St. Mary's students, so all the little schools within our Lancaster Depew community, and some of them really have, communicated to me that they need that face-to-face learning. Not everybody is that virtual type of learner.
Right.
So I think it's good to know that we can at least get the message out to these students that, hey, we realize the importance of face-to-face learning, that education was built that way. And even colleges are having to pivot when they don't necessarily want to right now. So it's good to know that you're supporting the needs of the students and what they're thinking. So I hope that they hear that message loud and clear. And, as far as, any type of, thing that we can do, whether it's as parents or students, what can we do, as the summer rolls around and September's approaching? And is there any action that we need to take, voices that that we can relay to the powers that be in the state? Anything we can do to make sure that our voices are heard in regards to what we need here in education in Western New York?
Well, I think we're going to need support, not just in schools, but across any kind of community organization like your own. Well, not your will focus or anything, or schools or local governments, local businesses, anything like that. Any support that we can get for them to still be able to offer services and supports, I think is really going to be needed. I know everybody's in a bind, um, and there's so much uncertainty financially and just day to day, even emotionally, or what's going on. But I think, in a sort of general way, we're really going to have to support each other. We're going to need that support, statewide, but also locally, just to kind of keep our services in place as best as we can. I'm not sure how that's all going to pan out, but that's the big thing. I mean, we have like even a budget vote coming up here. It's been delayed. I know it's later on in June. Certainly the district's going to need support to pass a budget so that we can keep at it. Because it's going to be, it could, who knows, financially could be some tough times. But we have some wonderful families and parents and businesses in this community, Lancaster, Depew area, just phenomenal. And we're going to need their support to keep at it and keep delivering some really high quality programs that they've become accustomed to.
Right. I think that holds true with just any type of change
Hmm.
or, potential needs for resources in anywhere in the United States, is that we as parents, or whatever sector that particular, type of government applies to, we can have an opinion, and it's great to have an opinion, and all opinions are valued at the table, but you have to get to the table. You have to step up
Hmm.
and let your voice be heard, so that everybody can learn from it, and we can devise the best possible solution. So as my plea to all the parents and students watching is, get involved, talk to your teachers, talk to the administrators, talk to
Hmm.
who is there for you, that would be your next in command, or your contact, to help your students or help the parents, and help, like you're saying, help the school just keep going.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
stay
Yeah,
engaged.
and I would add, on a more individual basis, yeah, if any families that are out there listening to our podcast today, if they need help, don't hesitate to call us, email us, send us a letter. We're still, I mean, I'm in pretty much every day, and a lot of our staff are in working. The principals are back in the buildings a little bit, getting back in as we make safety plans and kind of you know, make sure we can come back safely. But yeah, reach out to us, call, email, write, and we'll follow up to help. If anybody, I've helped with that, just, lining up services, be it for, housing, or for services, or for emotional supports. We have a huge staff of competent staff of psychologists, social workers, a family support center. So we are here to help, and we really have helped families and students, and we'll continue to do so.
Thanks for saying that, because that is so true. We don't have to do this alone. There's a huge network of support around us.
Mhm.
It's really our responsibility, if we want to take back that control, is to reach out to those resources and at least get a handle on what we can. So, Jen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your leadership within the Lancaster School District, for the teachers and everything they're doing to engage with their students. And any last words for you on a personal level, and any messages you want to share with your students or parents watching to give them some hope moving forward? Personal words of advice.
Oh boy, that's a good question, Gwen. This, I think maybe it's kind of an overused phrase lately, but this will pass, right? It'll get better. Um, I like the idea of what we're kind of talking about here today. Don't be afraid to reach out. It's better when you're going through something like this, even though it's such an awkward thing, trying to see people. But if you can reach out and work on some things and have some hope together, things will get better. They will get better. And yeah, like I said, I mean, as far as on a student basis, we have a lot of great teachers, therapists, staff, counselors, principals, and families. If you need help, ask for it. Things will improve, and we'll be back at it. Will it be a little different, maybe for a while, but we will get back together, and we'll have school.
That's right. Yeah, this too shall pass. Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well, John, thank you again for your time. It's been it's been just honoring, the fact that I have opportunities to speak with individuals such as yourself during this time to offer, some hope and some assurance that, things are happening behind the lines, while we as parents are trying to teach our kids and you're trying to prepare for the fall semester. So thank you so much. And I hope to
Hmm.
see you again on a future episode.
Well, thank you. It was fun to talk to you.
Thank you.